Your organization represents a lot of large employers in California. How are they reacting to the ACA, and what changes does the law bring for people who already get their insurance at work?
Thanks, Lisa. You're absolutely right. The primary purpose of the Affordable Care Act was to expand coverage to the uninsured and to reform the insurance markets, especially for individuals and small employers. As a result, the impact of the Affordable Care Act on large employers and their employees is relatively modest, at least in this short and medium term. This is good news and bad news at the same time. The good news is, as we all know, most large employers offer good, affordable, comprehensive coverage to their active full-time employees. And I don't think we'd want to disrupt that. There have been a number of requirements in the early years of the Affordable Care Act that large employers have had to comply with or demonstrate compliance with, such as expansion of coverage for dependents up to age 26, coverage of preventive services, a standardized statement of benefits and coverage. Those are relatively modest. Some employers have complained that it's a bit of administrative hassle, but in the grand scheme, compared to the other changes in the Affordable Care Act, these are relatively modest. In 2014, things become a little more serious with the establishment of the employer responsibility requirements, and then in 2018, with the advent of what's the so-called Cadillac tax, which is an excise tax on very high-cost employee benefit plans. But the bad news is, out of all this, is that regardless of how large employers felt about the Affordable Care Act, pro or con, on the day after the Supreme Court decision, they still woke up with the same problem they've been facing for the past year, for the past decade, which is that costs are too high. And rising costs are a threat not only to the future of employer-sponsored coverage, but actually to the Affordable Care Act itself, particularly the expansion of coverage that is so important.